Hi there. Um, I'm Garrett. You probably know me as Tally Lynch's Simp account, or CEO of Plasma Pistol Game, or that dumbass who keeps showing up in my mentions and supervious quote tweeter. Just goes hard with the quote tweets. Um, I don't know how to record a video at all. I have no charisma, no charm, no skills. But I just kind of want. It's Bad Batch Eve. We're like 2 hours away, hour 45 minutes away from the new episode, and I kind of just wanted to talk about something that other people have talked about, but I wanted to talk about it because I'm an egotistical maniac, and I feel like my opinion is more important than everyone else's. That's a joke. That's a joke. I have to clarify it's a joke because some people believe that. Um, but the thing I wanted to talk about is people assuming that because the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch and the other Clone Wars um, have very adult, not really adult, mature themes. Very mature themes. You see people get beheaded. Well, you don't really see people get beheaded. You see battle droids get beheaded. But people get, like, beheaded off screen, right? Like, it happens. People get delimbed, you know? People get impaled by lightsabers and stuff. People are like, oh man, this show's dark. This show's dark and brooding. This isn't good for children. This is a very dark and adult show for children. No, it's not. Oh my god, the first Star Wars movie, Ben Kenobi chops off some dude's arm, and there's blood everywhere. I assume it was before George just assumed that it got cauterized or something, or maybe like Fox didn't care at the time, and by 1980 they did. But Star Wars has always been excessively violent. I mean, take it from me. My favorite character gets fucking incinerated like 30 minutes into the movie after like kind of being set up. It's weird. We all know my feelings on that. That being said, Rian Johnson, I love you. The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. Kisses. But this idea that like people dying horrifically, that shit happens on the news all the time, and people watch it, okay? Kids learn about 9/11 since, like, fucking kindergarten. People flying planes in the buildings and shit. Kids love World War II. When I was young, I fucking loved World War II, you know? But violence is just part of life, you know? It can be disturbing at times, but this idea that, like, violence in like a children's show is adult themed, like it's not, like the fucking Wiggles, but maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm going a little too deep into this. I mean, I'm assuming most of the time it's said as a meme, right? Like wow, look how violent this animated kids show is. But it is something that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I have no script. I'm rambling. This is just a tweet. This is just how I talk about things. Ask anyone who's met me. I am just like this. On Twitter, I can get away with having less of a filter. I promise I'm not that much of a dickhole in real life. I do swear as much, though. But on the theme of, like, it is called Star Wars. It's not called Star Everybody Lives Happily Ever After. Shit happens, shit gets real. And I actually think that Star Wars, of all the media out there, I think does probably the best job of demonstrating to a younger audience like how horrific that kind of thing is, without going like the Saving Private Ryan route, where you literally just see people like just bleeding profusely from like severed limbs. It's not like over the top, It's real, but it's within that realm where it's not going to traumatize a kid, but it will make them understand why these things are bad and how these things happen. George Lucas has been in billions of interviews where he's like, oh yeah, the Empire are fascists and Nazis, and the Emperor is Richard Nixon, and the rebels are Viet Cong. But that his vision in the end was to kind of show what war is from a point of view that people would go into it thinking it was going to be something else, and kind of enlightening people, especially at the time in the 70s. I don't remember if Vietnam was. I assume Vietnam was over by the time the original Star Wars came out, but it was about Vietnam, right? It was about the idea that this massive empire, was going up against these ragtag guerrilla fighters, and out of all odds, they succeeded because in the end they were right. In that no matter what fascism does, no matter how brutally it takes over, no matter how innocently it takes over, remember, Palpatine gets powered legally. All you have to do is change the law. It's not illegal if you change the law, and that's a very mature thing to talk about in what is perceived to be a children's program, the political structuring of a fascist dictatorship and how those things come to rise. Hitler did not shoot his way into power. The Soviets did, but that's different, kind of, depending on who you ask. But yeah, it really showed that like the most brutal regimes in history don't always happen to take their power through the barrel of a gun. They just talk really nice to people and say bad things about other people. And that's how they get what they want. They just blame it on everyone else. And I've probably rambled for too much, but I just wanted to say, if anyone ever, unironically, I know people say it as a joke. I'm not dissing them, but the idea that like the clone, because it's animated, that the Clone Wars are the Bad Batch. Oh, it's too violent. It's too violent. Not my Star Wars. Fucking idiots. George Lucas was a fucking hippie. Like, for real. This man's like the biggest fucking... Yeah, Star Wars is about the brutal uprising and of a fascist regime and how they genocided their scapegoats. That's always been what Star Wars has been about. It's been about, victims of oppression rising up from the ashes to fight evil. That's just fucking World War II. I mean... We did have our own empire step in and do stuff like that, but World War II would not have been the same if it weren't for, the French resistance or the common Russian man, charging into tanks. That happened. People would, suicide bomb tanks with Molotovs just to give the other dudes a fighting chance, and eventually that led them to Berlin. And Star Wars has always been that. It's always been about the little guy who, you don't remember their name. You call them a glup shitto. And they blow up unceremoniously. And it sucks. And it's terrible. And everyone's sad. But that's what it is. That's why it's called Star Wars. Wars. Not, what I said earlier. But I wanted to ramble about that for a minute. Completely irrelevant to anything I've tweeted in the last week. Except I've subjected you to my terrible... attractiveness and face and voice, my very annoying voice. But this was probably an very embarrassing thing to post, but I enjoyed making it. Goodbye, everybody.